Yo, people, welcome back to the YouTube channel. You already know what time it is. It's time for another video. Big up your damn selves in the building. Make sure you smash up the likes every single damn time and subscribe if you are new. I hope you guys are enjoying the new set. There is more to come now. There's a lot of chatter in the Chelsea community about Cobham, about youth development, about youth integration. Over the two ownerships, are we doing the right thing with the talent that we attain and the talent that we developed from a young age? Are we wasting money? Are we maximizing our own assets? Now, listen, this is going to get tied in very well with the news cycle because Andre Santos, there's news, Livramento, we've heard talk, and of course, Amando Broja and Mark Gurhey as well. So we're going to get straight into it. And in this video, I'm going to provide and bring to you my strongest Cobham 11 since 2019-2020 season, where Lampard first came in, first had a massive influx of young players come in the squad, had a massive integration period of young players into the first team. And that's when this kind of maybe all began seriously. And then I'm going to bring you the strongest 11 we've sold and the strongest 11 that we've attained and look at the two and see what was actually okay and what was fine with the context and what probably went wrong and put us in a position that we didn't really need to be in. So let's get straight into it. The first report, Andre Santos. Andre Santos is expected to be recalled by Chelsea from Nottingham Forest, loan spell in January, but regulations will limit his next move. New FIFA regulations state clubs can only have 7 players out overseas at one time, and Chelsea have reached that number. That's Nazar Cancela. We already knew that Chelsea was struggling in this situation with Andre Santos not playing any football at Nottingham Forest. It's not a shock to me that that club in particular wasn't the play. I said it when he went there. I was extremely worried because Nottingham Forest have shown since they've come to the Premier League with that money, they are very much ready to blow the recruitment out the water and be a mini Chelsea almost and buy a whole heap of players at once. You know, they did it in the first season they arrived. They spent a decent amount. They brought quite a lot of players. They basically brought a whole new squad and they do it, they do it consistently. They did it again with the midfield in the summer. You look at their team that played against Brighton over the weekend, you'll see three players in midfield. You'll see Yates coming on off the bench. You'll see Konate as an unused substitute. And you won't even see Andre Santos in the squad. They've got 5 midfielders ahead of him in the pecking order in a team that plays three midfielders. He's not getting a sniff. We should do our homework better. I know we wanted to give him Premier League experience, but look at Nottingham Forest. Are they really going to give him an opportunity, or are they going to buy and recruit a lot of players as they continue and have done? Are we going to provide financial, repercussions for not playing our players if you're taking them on loan? If you're saying one thing and doing another, are there going to be financial repercussions? Are you going to have to pay fees for if they haven't met a certain game tally? Should have to. But also, this is happening because A, we haven't prioritized him in the European slot for loans, right? Because we've given it to Diego Marino, who came from Benfica B. Benfica fans told me at the time he's not ready to really make a serious impact. We saw in the preseason, he was nowhere near as impressive as Andre Santos. So really, Andre Santos should have had priority to go to a loan on a Porto or whoever it was and get a great loan ahead of Diego Marino because he is the superior talent, but he didn't get that preference. Is that, again, a lack of foresight? Because, again, we signed Leslie Okachuku. He comes in. We've already seen Andre Santos have a good preseason. We've now double stacked with another young midfielder coming through. Maybe we wanted more height in the team, more physicality. I don't know. But double, triple stacking on young players in the same position, which in midfield is really clear to us right now. Thank God the Brazilian midfielder move seems to be breaking down from Corinthians and he may be going to PSG, but who knows? We're probably going for another player. We're linked with someone at Shakhtar Donetsk, loose links at the moment. How many more times are we going to keep buying more young players in the same position and then losing sight of where we're going to place them, what loan we're going to send them on, when really we could do this with time, take time with it, do it incrementally, boost your multi-club model up. And then as you do so, you can bring in players incrementally as you build your kind of network, your spider diagram. But we've only got one club to send, and that's Strasbourg. No surprise, Angelo's doing brilliantly. He's playing games because we have some control over that situation. But environments like Nottingham Forest, you don't have control. Now, on the whole Diego Marino loan as well, He's coming back after playing no minutes for a bottom of the League On team, Lyon. He's not playing, right? He's going to have to come back. They gave us a 2.5 million loan fee for a player we didn't pay for. He came in on a free, so we made some profit there. If that fee is still going to continue after coming back with an early exit, I'm not so sure. But we need to kind of potentially stop loaning players to teams that are in relegation scraps. It's not a good environment. It's not a good environment for young players because obviously managers tend to lean on experience. They tend to get negative with their tactics, go long, etc. More likely to do so at that, position in that league. We've seen it with Gilmore at Norwich. We've seen it with Ampadu at Sheffield United. We've seen it with Ampadu, I think, in a Serie A loan as well. Maybe it's better to loan players to teams in the division below, but are, aiming for promotion, aiming for the upper echelons of the league and playing, therefore, a better brand of football. We've seen it with championship loans. Levi Colwell. We've seen it with Tomori. We've seen it with Mason Mount. We've seen it with Abraham. We've seen it with so many players. Reece James. Well, Reece James is an anomaly because I guess Wigan were in a relegation battle, but he's just clear. He's just that good. But more time often than not, sending them to a team that is doing well in the division below, they may get more chance, more opportunity, and better brand of football. So something to learn there potentially as well. But yeah, in terms of that whole situation with Santos, absolute mess. And like I said, the sooner he comes back, the better. But it may be at the sacrifice of Diego Mourinho. And again, linking to other loans, Chelsea, in another report, are obviously disappointed that Romelu Lukaku, Hakim Ziyech, and Kepa are taking up 3 of the 7 loan spots and were not permanently sold in the summer. What we did in the summer was astronomical in terms of sales, but there were always going to be some castaways. There were always going to be some stragglers. Very difficult to sell absolutely everyone in one window. You have to make allowance for that. And therefore, as you have to make allowance for that and should, with some spots, that means you need to slow down your recruitment on young players coming in and take a chill pill and say, actually, 1, we don't have room for you in terms of the pathway, in terms of the development plan. But 2, there will always be more youngsters. Just because we sign all the young 17, 18-year-olds that are the best now, it doesn't mean in 2 years' time there won't be more 17, 18-year-olds that we want. What are we going to do? Keep buying all of the 17, 18-year-olds in every single calendar year they pop up? It's not possible. So we do have to, think about this. But it's not new to this ownership. It's not just new to this ownership. We used to do this under Roman. We used to buy Lucas Piazon. We used to buy Kennedy. We used to buy all of these young Brazilians, all of these young players. And we used to have loads of loans. You guys will remember we had, record amounts, record numbers in terms of loaned players out overseas to different clubs. And if anything, we are the reason that FIFA have actually condensed the amount of players you're allowed to loan out in the first place because of what was going on under Roman and that kind of profit scheme that we were playing with. Now, we didn't care as much then because we were winning. I've never liked really the amount of careers that we damaged. You take a look at all the players that fell away to the wayside. Some obviously did make it. Some obviously did go on to have great careers. Nathan Ake's, Courtois, all these players. But there's a lot that have also suffered. Never really enjoyed being that type of, pantomime, that type of team, I guess. But yeah, this is not new to us. We did this already. We did that before and we continue to do it. But do it better, at least do it well with a plan. So there is disappointment on that side. Now, obviously, yes, Nizar Cancelo also put out in a tweet that seeing Livramento play left back in the last 2 matches makes me think he could have coexisted with Reece James at Chelsea. Chelsea got the 5 million compensation, obviously, from Southampton. But on top of that, they got the 15 million sell on to Newcastle, which is 20 million in total. He's going to be worth probably double that, if not more. Probably on the cusp of maybe, if he continues to play with Burn injured, and he's obviously going to be a much better player than Burn. There's no doubt about that. Unbelievable, pre-assist for the goal that was scored by Isak. Wonderful dribble from that left-hand side. Yes, he gave the penalty away. In my opinion, it wasn't a penalty. Great performance. Coming back off an ACL as well, so even more impressive. But has always been able to play right back, has always been able to play left back, and has always been able to even play in further forward wide positions because he is good on both flanks. And if you take a look at the Tuchel, era, we were playing with wing backs, but regardless, even in a 4, he's strong, he's quick, he's tall, he's good. He's very, very polished. This is what we produce at Chelsea, especially defensively. We just have produced so many players. You're going to see that in the Cobham 11 that we've sold that I'll bring to you in a moment. But so for me, the whole, he can't coexist with Reece James, I've never agreed with that when, he was here because he can play on the left-hand side. But also, unfortunately, Reece James has become injury-prone. We weren't to know that, but he is so positionally versatile, Livramento, that he could have played in that time. Now, there's always, it's always misconstrued that he left because of Reece James or there was no pathway. The pathway could have been produced via a loan, and also him getting shunned into the under-18s for not extending his contract, not knowing if he was going to get a chance, didn't help as well. So it's not actually really to do more about Reece James. It's more to do with the way we treated him in the end. So that's an L, right? That's an L. That's an L. But we move on from it. And we look at the Cobham 11 here on screen before we get to Mark Gurhey, which is the next report. We are interested in him currently right now after selling him a few years ago, potentially going to have to pay double what we paid. Hopefully our clause, our percentage sale clause on future transfers is still there, and maybe that kind of lessens the blow, but I'm not so sure on that. This is the Cobham 11 on screen that we sold since, you could say, a few years ago, since we really started doing this producing youngsters thing. Bulka in goal. He went to PSG. He's the best goalkeeper I could find from the academy. Really, he's now at Nice. There's not really any regret there. I always sympathise more on the policy of signing, players for striker and goalkeeper, because you're just looking for world class, and they can have a massive impact on your points differential. They're missing chances or they're saving shots. Like, it's very, very cut and dry. Who's at fault? Do you really have the patience for development in those two positions in particular? Unlikely, so I sympathize with goalkeepers and strikers if you want to purchase the best in the world, to be honest. There and then it's very difficult to integrate players from those positions. So yeah, the goalkeeper. Now, Tomori, Christensen and Mark Gurhey. What a back three that is. What a back three that is. The quality in that back three is insane. And what frustrates me more, and I'm going to speak about Mark Gurhey right now, which is the latest report from today. Keep an eye on Chelsea entering the race. For a player like Mark Gurhey, Pochettino would ideally like to see more Premier League experience. Now, we've seen a report on him in the summer anyway as well. It's not the first time we've been linked with him. If we're going to play a high line, if we're going to press from the front, if we're going to counter press, we're going to need to be compact. So what does that mean? We're going to have to push our defensive line up as high as possible, right? And of course, like Liverpool do, we're going to need pace. We don't have much pace in defense. Disasi's not great in terms of pace. He's not the quickest. Silva, he's getting on. He's not the quickest. Fofana is, but he's injured. He's quick. Tomori's quick. Really good recovery defender. We saw it for AC Milan. Of course, he's a bit of a hothead. Sometimes gets himself sent off, but he's quick. Christensen is fantastic technically. Yes, there was always, question marks about mentality and, physicality, and obviously, the whole stomachache and stomach bug situation. But again, another quality defender. What frustrates me is that our recruitment in the summer with Disasi, if we are playing a high line, and if he's not going to be good enough to at least back up Fofana when he returns, who is a world record transfer for a defender, who we signed off the back of a massive injury, and now he's injured again. If we are giving up on him after spending so much money on him, like I said, world record fee for a defender, that is incompetency. That is idiocy. We knew he was injured when we signed him. We'd only just come off an injury. He hadn't even played a full calendar year of consistent football before we signed him off the back of an injury. Like I said, he had a couple of weeks at Leicester, and then the season ended. Disasi's slow. This is not new information. He's not the quickest. We signed him this summer for 45 million euros, I think it was. It's a lot of money again. If these guys are not going to be your first choice right side centre-backs, and you need a Mark Gurhey to come in to play on that side, which I assume he will be on that side because Badiashiel's on the left with Levi Colwill already. I know Gurhey could maybe play both sides because he's both footed, but that is an incredible amount of money to spend in 1 year on centre-backs. Badiashiel, Disasi, Levi Colwill, you've thankfully been able to keep, because luckily enough, they saw foresight in the previous summer under Tuchel that you should keep him, loan him out to Brighton, not sell him, even though we were searching for Vardiels and Akes and loads of other centre-backs. You knew Levi Colwill was a good defender to keep at that age, and you didn't sell him for cheap. Good. But the names I've just reeled off, the amount of centre-backs we've signed, and that's not even including Koulibaly, who obviously was sold after 1 year of purchase. The amount of money we've spent on centre-backs to still be trying to sign more centre-backs is insane. And obviously Humphreys is there as well out on loan, and he's a good talent. So Trevor Chalobah is obviously probably going to be sold. It's insane. And if you're telling me now we need to sign a pacey centre-back so we can play a high line, then that just proves that having too many managers in a short space of time F's up your recruitment. And even if you have said manager in place in the summer, you're not in line if you're signing a slow centre-back for a manager that you've just hired that needs maybe fast centre-backs to play a high line. He was literally right there. I'm so confused. So what are we doing, right? But 4 managers in the last year will do that to you. So again, if you want to promote and push on young players coming through, or you want to spend your money wisely, managerial stability is absolutely fundamental and incredibly important, as we're seeing with this whole centre-back saga. So yeah, pains me greatly, but 3 really good centre-backs there. Tomori obviously left under the circumstances of Frank Lampard. We ended up having Thiago Silva come in that second season, and we had too many centre-backs because we didn't move one on. I think it was 5 centre-backs on the roster, and Tomori was the one to fall out of favour and eventually be sold in January to AC Milan. And obviously Christensen didn't renew his contract. We couldn't get that renewal done in the previous ownership under Marina. Again, Christensen and Rudiger at the same time losing out on them for free led to the signings of Koulibaly and Fofana in the summer, which they left for massive amounts of money. So yeah, that's why I always say the current predicament is not only just starting from the summer the Todd Boehly came in, it's also the previous regime's failure to renew contracts, and obviously spending and sales and what they did and how they recruited and how they shaped the squad before this ownership arrived. So it is all in it together. Very much High School Musical here. We're all in this together for sure. So that trio is crazy. If we're buying back Gurhi, that instantly has to go down as a regret because we're going to have to pay more. And the other 2 are quality players that could definitely start for us right now, or at least could definitely play a part in us playing a high line because they're quicker than what we have tactically. Lamptey, Livramento at the wing-back spots. I don't really... Listen, Lamptey's really good. I think Lamptey having all these injury issues, though, and he's out again for Brighton, has softened the blow on us really on a regret thing. We definitely sold him for too cheap, but yeah, he's not really playing consistently. He is very good, but he's very injury prone. Physically, there was always a question mark. Is he going to be tall enough? Is he going to be physical enough, strong enough to really deal with the combat and the set piece? You know, much like Billy Gilmore, who we're going to get to. If a manager didn't really think physically they could cope, then that was always a question. If you want a more physically imposing team, those 2 are a little bit on the smaller side. So not a massive regret on Lamptey. Livramento, yeah, I would have preferred to keep him. I was pretty disappointed when we sold him. And like I said earlier, he could have coexisted. And when you look at the left back situation, where really Chilwell, good player, Cucurella, good player, Maatsen probably not going to stay. None of Cucurella or Chilwell, who have cost 50 and 58, 55, whatever, Cucurella, none of them can really go both ways to a complete level of a Reece James. You know, you've got an inverted left back who can't really go forward, not really great going forward on the cross, on the shot. And you've got another left back who's been kind of moved as a wing back, and as good as he is on the shooting side with Chilwell, which is decent, it's not a Marcus Alonso level, but in general play, he can be quite limited at times. He doesn't really use both feet, and he's not elite. So both on high wages. You could definitely make a case for Livramento, who didn't cost you anything, who can go both ways, and both flanks. Yeah, you could definitely make a case for saying that is a regret. That's an L. Gilmore, Hall, and Mount, and Hudson-Odoi, and then Abraham. I mean, Lewis Hall, like I said, I would have kept him in the summer. It's a shame. We could have loaned him out to Crystal Palace. He was ready to go out on loan. We blocked the move for some reason. Then we end up selling him to Newcastle. Why did we do that? Pure profit, need the money, and also potentially because we have too many left backs, which is because we've stockpiled really too many left backs on the books. We had 3, potentially 4 with Maatsen, similar to the time where you take a look at, obviously under Roman, you had Emerson, Alonso, and Chilwell all at the same time. Now we had Hall, Cucurella, and Chilwell all at the same time. There was only one loser in that, the guy that didn't cost anything, pure profit, and easy to move on over the 2 high wage earners. So again, not great, but a shame in the end for Hall. And I think, again, that's not great representation of us considering the talent that he is. Mount, we played him, we used him, we got a great stint out of him and got good money for him in the end, I think. And he's not doing brilliantly at Man United. He's picking up a lot of injuries, potentially, but consequently, because we played him so much and maybe absolutely used and abused him in terms of the amount of games we played him back to back. Like a sponge, we squeezed him. So is there a massive regret right now when you look at the midfielders that we have, that we wanted, and then obviously Cole Palmer coming in Cuckoo? No, I don't think there's a regret at all right now. Hudson-Odoi, there's not a regret. It's unfortunate that he got a massive injury, Achilles injury, of course, that ruined his kind of development and changed the player that he was from the Sarri days to the days of now. He lost that explosive nature. that 1v1 demon nature. And yeah, there's no regret there. We had a long time with him. We saw he wasn't going to be the player we thought. We moved him on. Abraham, no striker has really come in since Abraham and eclipsed him, right? 15 non-penalty goals. Werner comes in, makes the situation complicated. The first season of transfer business for Lampard, going into the second, Havertz comes in as well. That summer is where Abraham obviously loses the transfer battle with Roman and bringing in new faces. And then obviously he leaves, right? But no striker from that moment goes on to eclipse him. Lukaku comes in, doesn't do so. Jackson's here now, we haven't seen whether or not he's going to eclipse or equal. But with Abraham, I don't think he's world class. I don't think he's Chelsea starting level for me personally, if we're going to go back to where we want to be. So I wasn't angry with the sale. I think maybe we just replaced him wrong. We just didn't replace him well. But for sure, you have to appreciate what he did, because even though he wasn't perfect, he couldn't head the ball. His hold-up play sometimes was sticky icky when he used to fall over and slide all over the place. He still put up some numbers that other guys have not done. So, yeah, that's how I'd go through that Cobham 11. And obviously the Cobham attained team that we have now, as you can see on screen. Yeah, I mean, it's okay, you know. Gallagher's still here, Colwell's here, James here, Maatsen. I mean, Trevor and Chalobah and Maatsen, obviously, in the back four, they're going to be leaving, it seems. Colwell and James will be fine. They'll stick around. Gallagher, you know, in the midfield as well. There's a couple of young players next to him. We'll see how they do. Webster, Vale, I don't really see futures for them anymore. Looks like they'll leave. Broja, this gets us onto Broja, obviously, as you can see. You know, for me, with Broja on that news that we're seeing now, that he would preferably be determined and would like to stay at Chelsea despite the threat of another striker arriving at Stamford Bridge in January. First of all, I think that's really great mentality-wise from him, and also because he's not really had the opportunity to play yet because he's been injured. So I wouldn't jump ship so soon if I was him anyway, because Poch really likes him. Poch really likes Gallagher. He got chances. Once Broja's fit consistently, I think he'll get chances too. And I think he's got some potential. Fulham are keen to offer the striker an exit route, but such approach would not tempt him away from Stamford Bridge. I think he's probably aiming higher. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Like I said, be careful what you do on the striker market in January, because I think realistically, Osimhen is unlikely. I've said it before. I think Tony, the board is split. I like Tony, and I would bring him in personally, but I wouldn't overpay some stupid 80 million fee, right? It needs to be reasonable, because again, we don't know what Nkunku could do for the likes of Jackson and Broja if they can keep themselves fit, how that connection could potentially change their form, and just also playing games in the Premier League. They could have an upturn as the season goes on, as they continue to get to grips and to continue to develop relationships with players around them in the attack. They could just improve naturally, as they would as youngsters. You'd expect they would. So sometimes we look at players, how they're performing right now, and we think they're going to perform like that forever. It's just not the case. Early part of the season, most difficult part of the season for these young players that are integrating into a team they've never played in before and into a league they've never played in before. I'm talking about Jackson, with a supporting cast of Nkunku that has not been there. If he is there in the back end, with the experience that you've had playing for the first half of the season, you should improve. You should improve, right? So, yeah, we'll take that situation and move slowly and see how we go, because I don't want us to be reactionary or just move mad again in the January transfer window, as I said. Now, this is a funny report as we come towards the end. Allegri's free to leave Juventus and is interested in the Premier League job, with Chelsea potentially becoming an option if their free fall continues. I couldn't think of a worse candidate to come in than Allegri for what we're trying to do right now. Whether we see it through is obviously down to the board. But yeah, as I just said earlier about the chopping and changing of manager and how that impacts young players and their development, that type of link right there would absolutely obliterate so much of what I've said. And of course, final quote here on Mark Robertson, who's the under-21s coach, to continue the theme. A lot of the lads went across to the first team to help with the numbers during the international break. I speak regularly with Jesus Perez, assistant head coach to Pochettino, pretty much on a daily basis. I get feedback, positive or not positive, but it's usually always been positive. If they go across and do well, which they have done, you feel good, you take a lot of pride in how they approach things. The last thing you want to hear is their application isn't what it should be. Obviously, that kind of wraps everything up in a bow. The manager that we currently have, if we're talking about youth development, youth integration, not wasting money on certain positions, maybe left back, maybe forwards, maybe striker, over the years, not just now, but over the years under both ownerships. This is probably a manager that's going to integrate young players, and that's why we've brought him in, right? Better than some of the previous managers. So use that to your advantage. You could save some money, and you may not really actually lose out positionally on the table. You might actually improve. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below, guys, about these situations, about that Cobham 11. Who do you regret keeping, letting go of? And obviously what we have now. Who do you think will stay in that Cobham 11 that we have now? Who do you think will go? And also what you think on Andre Santos and that handling of that situation. And like I said, on All You Can Eat Chelsea, please slow down with the buying of teenagers. It would help greatly with the current teenagers you already own. Until next time, big up your damn selves. Make sure you smash up the likes. Make sure you subscribe. In a bit, people. Peace.